welcome back to Football Bloody Hell. Gary's still in his hotel room. You would think
I've been here for weeks.
Weeks he's been there. Like if you're watching or listening to these pods, the weeks apart that they will be in, he's still in that same hotel room. He's still eating those same tacos. There's no continuity whatsoever. People are going to be calling us out. He's whacking the tacos in there. But,
oh no! Bravo!
but,
I like it.
Yeah, there'd be no continuity in it at all. It'd be like one of those really bad Godzilla movies from the 70s, 60s.
As long as there's monsters and fighting.
Yeah, tacos. So yeah, I think we're going into this pod and we're thinking like we're going to talk about a bit more serious about the gap between the Premier League. Like we sort of started talking about it in the last pod with the little question that we aired. But I think we're going to talk about it a bit more depth. Maybe compare it to how it is in other leagues abroad and whatever, and how they deal with it and how different it is. Probably to do with the money, but like.
Yeah.
But we got a couple of stories that we want to share, and I wanted to share this one with Gary. It involves one of the teams that's actually quite close to me. It's only like 15 miles away. They play in the National League North, which is funny because they're not in the fucking North. But and then
so many teams.
It also involves Sheffield Wednesday. Like both these clubs, you wouldn't expect them to cross. Maybe in the odd FA Cup game. That's the only time they sort of have the news maybe together. So Sheffield Wednesday sent out their allocation of tickets for Oxford United this weekend. So they sent a good 4,000 tickets down in the post, meant to be for Oxford United. They sent them to Oxford City. They sent them to Oxford City. Oxford City put a post up on X or whatever it is now and just said, "Don't worry, Oxford United fans, we've got your 4,000 tickets for Hillsborough, but we're only sending you 3,997. The three staff that work in the office are taking one each."
Oh my god, he's dropped the ball there.
How the fuck?
Did he do that?
How? But yeah.
Oh my god. That is absolutely shocking. I wonder if they knew about it. I wonder if they authorised it or they just tag everyone in it, like, don't worry lads, we'll sort your mess out.
Well, yeah, Oxford City did sort the mess out. They hand delivered them over to the Kazam, so Oxford United have them. But like,
oh my god, that is good.
I mean, giving 4,000 tickets to a National League North team is fucking impressive, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, I think Sunderland did something. We never sent them to the wrong club. We sent them to the right club, but we sent the wrong ticket. So I think we printed out a bunch of tickets on the FA Cup ticket slip.
Oh right, yeah.
And I had to reissue them again because it was the wrong ticket types. Well, kind of halfway, but never mind. I feel like I'm trying to one-up you on shit that I don't want to one-up you on.
Yeah, one up, go on.
Which club's more fucking retarded than the other? Like, Jesus Christ!
I think we're both.
Sorry,
I think we're both on the spectrum, aren't we? Our clubs, so
have to be surely. But I've got a story for you, which you might have seen, and because of the nature of it and where it is, I'm assuming you do. So I heard this on TalkSport this morning, but I've just Googled it to make sure I get the right word here. But the Bulgarian top flight side had to apologise. So they had to apologise because they held a minute silence for Ganchev before they kick off. An absolute legend of the Bulgarian team. He's 78-year-old ball side the minute time for a guy who wasn't. That is one of the funniest things. I was literally driving to the train station this morning, like in tears, laughing, just thinking about that guy. Like probably he's either in the stand or like watching it at home, like or like just like watching this minute silence happening, if you see the pictures of him, like the crowd like going in like total silence, like who's this one?
I think
him.
I think it was quite. He said it was quite stressful. He said he got so many phone calls, and then that made me wonder, why the fuck would you phone someone who's dead? He said he goes, my phone was going off left, right and centre with people ringing me, and I was like, why would you ring a dead person? But like, yeah, I think they interviewed him afterwards, and he said he was 10 minutes late home, and his wife rang him and said, they've just said on the telly that you're dead. And then she was in shock. Like, but I mean, he did. I think he did play it down a little bit, because he did say, I don't know how accurate this quote is, but he goes, being buried alive is quite stressful, to be honest. Where did they get that from?
Like what point of like is it like one of them things that you think has started on Twitter as like a joke? Do you know when it says like if you go, X and you go on, it's like, but he's somebody old like Michael Caine, for example. You see Michael Caine trending, and everyone's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I thought he was dead, like I thought he was the worst. I wonder if they picked up on that and just thought, oh, the guy's dead, we need him in asylum.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, from his words, he was saying like, it's normal to spread a rumour in his village. I was like, but the fact they announced it live on telly was a bit annoying. Like, it makes you think, like, yeah, it's just bizarre, isn't it? Like, because it's not like, I mean, he played for Arda Kadzali, so it's like not a well-renowned Bulgarian side, but they were playing Levski Sofia on the telly, so obviously like it was on TV, and it was a big thing. If they did the minute silence just against some other random Bulgarian side, I'm sure it wouldn't have blown up that much, but like, I think it's funny.
One of the other things that was linked to it as well, I was going to try and play the audio so you could hear, but they said, like, it was Ali McCoy, he was like, oh, Alan Brazil's got something in common with him. I think it was, it's not Chabot Francis, I think it was, like, Bob Moncur, maybe? And he was doing an interview with a guy who was talking about, like, let's just say Bob Moncur, for example. And they were saying, like, oh, this is that, the other. And Alan Brazil was like, yeah, but how is his health now? And the guy went, he died at Christmas, Alan. And he was like, oh, but and then it goes back on, and then like about 10 seconds like, between like trying to like go, oh shit, he's just realised he's dead. And Alan Brazil comes back in, undeterred by the fact that he didn't realise the guy he's trying to talk about is dead, and goes, oh, I had two different versions of that story. What? I heard two different versions of the guy being dead. And it's like, it's like, oh, I had two different versions. That's like, no, mate, I'm pretty sure you didn't hear two different versions of somebody dying.
I'm pretty sure you're backtracking because you're an idiot.
It was just so funny. Oh, it was so funny this morning. Like, I just couldn't believe, like my mind took me to a funny place. I was just thinking, imagine being in the position of Ganchev, where you were like sat, going about your day, as a 70-year-old man,
getting excited to see your team on telly against Levski Sofia, getting home, you're a bit late. You've missed your minute silence. He missed it. He was late to his own funeral, technically.
His own eulogy. Fucking hell, man. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad that happened. That's the kind of stuff that I love to see in the news. Where it's like,
absolute
bad,
bullshit
bad,
stuff.
But like, no real bad. You know
just
what I mean? Especially
weirdly bullshit. Yeah.
But the real matter I want to talk to you about for the next 20 minutes is, like we said in the previous pod, anybody who's listened, we slowly and softly alluded to the gap that is now in existence between the Premier League and the Championship. And I'll kick off by saying, Matt, putting you on the spot straight away, do you think the English tier, like tier
pyramid
system? Well, actually, maybe not the pyramid. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. But maybe not the pyramid as a whole, but like literally just from the championship to the top level. Do you think that's the biggest in Europe?
Do I think it's the biggest in Europe?
Like the biggest jump that you have to make. Let's forget, like, I'm not talking about like, the prize money. I mean, generally, the standard of football. Do you think it's the biggest in Europe?
I think so, yeah. I think so, purely because, like, I mean, if you look at, I think the money does play a big factor, though, in this. And I think we alluded to it in the last pod as well, like, the fact that the squads and the amount of money that teams can pump in if you just stay in the league for one season, whether you finish 17th. I think if you look at like Wolves, for instance, and then the team that currently 15th in Ligue 1, it's Reims or whatever, however you pronounce them.
Remis.
Remis. But you compare those two teams, Wolves would probably batter them. Like you have to think sort of like where does it sort of sit, and like I'm just looking at who's promoted. Auxerre, Angers, and Saint Etienne were promoted to Ligue 1. Auxerre 11th, Angers 14th, and Saint Etienne are 17th. So I mean, reasonably they're competing. They're not walking it, but you can't say that a team that's promoted from into one of these. We're talking about the top 5 leagues. So what? France, Germany, Italy, Spain, aren't we? Teams that are promoted into those leagues, they're not gonna. Sometimes they might just get absolutely battered and go back down again. But a lot of the time, there is a chance for them to compete and probably finish maybe mid-table or at least be comfortably outside the relegation zone. Whereas I think that used to be what the Premier League was like, maybe about 5 years ago. Not that long ago in memory, like you could realistically compete. I think now it's just got to the point where you come up and unless you've spent so much money like Nottingham Forest did and got a points deduction and stayed up, like you haven't got over now. Like I think you have to literally take a points deduction the next season just to stay up. Spend so much money that you take a points deduction and then stay up.
I mean, if you like, I keep an eye on Parma for if anyone's a previous listener because of obviously Football Manager. And I was just looking there at Serie A, and the 3 teams that came up in no particular order. I mean, Parma, but Venezia, which I butchered the pronunciation, Parma, and Como. Como obviously have a little bit behind them with obviously Cesc Fabregas. So they're sat. So they played 30 games? Let's just say round it up, it makes it easier. 30 games, 8 games to go. And then from 13th to 20th, you've got Como on 29, and then down into the relegation zone. That Como now 7 points clear, which is a decent offer. Parma 3 points clear, and of the bottom, but then Venezia are 5 points adrift, and then Monza, who are bottom, are pretty much relegated because they're 10 points behind, which is quite a shock considering how long they've been in Serie A now. But in fairness, I think that's a good return for Parma, who's not been in Serie A for a while. Como, obviously, that goes without saying. Venezia have always kind of been flirting with it, and it's just you look at the teams in there. There's Nice, Hellas Verona, Genoa, Torino.
A lot of teams that have been in Serie B recently. I think the only league that you could probably compare it to, I know this season maybe La Liga is a bit different. I think Las Palmas and Valladolid are getting absolutely smashed at the bottom, but then usually that's about the same as Serie A, so they sort of flitter around maybe the bottom 6, but sometimes they might not get relegated. Is the Bundesliga, in the fact that I think Last season, Heidenheim and Darmstadt came up. Darmstadt went straight back down last. Heidenheim did pretty well. They actually got into Europe, didn't they? Yeah, they did, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah. This season, they're second bottom. Bottom of the league are promoted, Holston Kiel, and then St. Pauli got promoted, and they're just flittering above the relegation playoff. And you think, like, maybe the Bundesliga is probably the one that's the most... Thing is, with the Bundesliga, it isn't the money. I just think, barring the top 2, maybe Leipzig and Frankfurt, maybe top 4, Mainz are third for some reason. but like, but the rest of them, and Dortmund maybe because they're having a fucking terrible season. But it's quite even playing field, and I think it's quite difficult for those teams the jump between Bundesliga 2 and the Bundesliga is quite difficult. I think just purely because those teams have been established for a long time. I think it's quite hard to establish yourself in the Bundesliga unless you've got
like foot.
Hey,
well, yeah, no, I was just saying I would agree with that because you've got like teams
there's less
like
teams as well, but yeah,
it is difficult. Like, and I suppose like,
but that you can establish it. No, it's difficult to establish yourself in the Bundesliga, but you can. Like, I don't think it's impossible, but it's difficult because there's less teams, there's more established teams in there and things like that. But then where the Premier League, I just think it's so difficult to just establish yourself. Even if you get one season where you just stay up miraculously stay up, like Wolves tank it next year and say Leeds stay up 17th or whatever. The next season is so massive for Leeds. If the teams that are coming up are probably the ones that go down, so your Leicester, Southampton, and maybe one other if Burnley don't go up or something like that. Then Leeds are going to find it so difficult to actually stay up and establish themselves. But yeah,
it's not if season. I know there's no I suppose this statement is like no different to any other season where it's like your first season is purely about survival. You've got to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But then
I think it was a bit easier if you stayed in one. Like, even if it was like 5-10 years ago, you look at teams like Brentford, Brighton, when they came into the Premier League, they just needed one season, stabilise, build. You know, whereas I think now it's so hard to just get that one season where you stay in, like to be able to stabilise the next season, and you've got to keep up with everyone else. You've got to spend, or you've got to build yourself again to not finish 18th. But yeah,
well, if you look at it in the fact that, like, let's say this season Sunderland are the best of the rest. Really, we're in fourth place.
Well, yeah, you're fourth and you're fourth. Yeah, nowhere near you. Both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so those 3 teams you expect to go up, but like outside of the top 3, I don't really see anybody having a real chance. I just see it as like Ipswich, like I know Southampton in the playoffs. I wasn't really convinced with them anyway under Russell Martin, and you know how I feel about Russell Martin. I think he's finally exposed. Then, if you look like Ipswich, obviously left the right way with the league because they had a squad of players that were like not good enough for the Premier League, but too good for the Championship, and it's just that rinse and repeat over and over again. And if you are going to build, it's such a difficult thing to do because. If you look at Sunderland, I know we're classed as a massive club in the Championship and whatever, whether that's self-proclaimed or not. We just haven't got the spending ability to do that, and I think what's going to happen for us is we're definitely going to make the playoffs. We might limp into it in the end because I think a lot of our players have got nothing to play for, so maybe that's playing on the mind just to go through the motion and to get the last 2 games, the 2 finals we get before we get to the major final of the playoffs. I think if we do go up, it just means we'll retain them players. If we don't go up, we've got a lot of money on our books that, like, Joe Bellingham's, Chris Rigg, Dan Neil, people have linked Patterson, but I'm one of his biggest critics. Trey Hume, Dennis Serkin, like, you've got players in that team which are like good young players who would probably be okay in a Premier League team, but wouldn't start.
Yeah.
Maybe Dan Neil, maybe like Brown or something. You've got Tommy Watson, like, got a lot of sellable assets, and I feel like Sunderland are at a point where if we don't go up this season, we will get picked apart. Like what Ipswich did, they signed Jack Clark, give us 18 million for him, or 15 million, whatever it was, and he's nowhere near it. He's an amazing championship player, but he's been nowhere near it. He's been played out of position, in fairness to him. But like Ipswich just picked the best championship team because they were like, let's go for it. Let's go for. Let's see if we can do it with this team. The likely probably is going to lose Liam Delap because I think he's had a good season. But outside of that, could they get relegated and financially be okay? Absolutely. So I would put them as contenders for next season. Southampton's a bit weird because although they've got a good squad for the championship, and the mentality of losing every week and all that kind of stuff, a new manager, blah, blah, blah. If Leicester come down, maybe they have to sell a lot of resources like Leeds try to, so they kind of struggle. Then you've got the teams who are always there and they're out. I just feel like the championship's getting harder and harder and harder because you just can't compete with the money that's in the Premiership. So it has to be the hardest league in Europe to go up from, because the only way I see us, and this is what I said on the last episode to now, is like if you were to plot out how your team gets into the Premier League, Sunderland are on that journey. As much as it's not going to be nice to see because you're going to see a lot of people leave the club, I think we don't go up this season, we sell a lot of players, and we might get around about 50 million to build a championship squad where we could maybe go back and go, do you know what? It's going to take us another couple of years than what we expected to be competing and competitive with these teams. You're going to have to sell them for 30 million or 20 odd million, whatever. You're going to have to sell Chris Rigg for 10, 15 million. You're going to have to sell, but you've just got to hope that, as we have done in this season, last season, the season before, is bring through young players so we can sell pure profit, we can bring in, like, oh, he's injured now, but Levy, like, came out of nowhere, and he's like a quality player, albeit on loan, but like that's a level of player that when he played, I was like, oh shit, we're nowhere near the level we need to be. When he turned it on, he was playing passes that fans go, oh, why didn't he play it there? But players don't because they're used to the level. Yeah. He was playing passes like round the corner and catching our players off guard because there was like, we haven't got somebody who can do that.
Yeah.
And Lefy, I would say, would play maybe for like a top, like I'd say top mid-table Prem team.
So you're looking at what, Brighton squad. Sort of?
Maybe even like a
Crystal Palace.
A little bit. Maybe like a squad.
Man United.
Maybe, but like he's the first player I've looked at Sunderland and thought, like, you know what, we're playing really well. And then he came in the team and I was like, we're nowhere near it. Like, we're just nowhere near it.
There's a different level, isn't there? Yeah, you see like just one player like that comes in and you think, oh, fuck me, we need a whole squad of him if you want to stay up. And then like, I think...
So that's what I was going to say. The only way I see Sunderland preparing themselves to get into the Premier League is doing what we're doing. Unless we, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, but like if we got a Saudi owner and fast track that process. However, the way I do it, the way we're doing it at the moment, albeit it's frustrating times, because you have to put your players and everyone thinks the penny pinching when when we're winning, there's no issue, but if we have a few bad results, it's like, oh, we're penny pinching, we need to go and get this. Why can we not spend 20 million on a player? Why did we not spend 60 grand a week on Barrett and Diaz's wages? And the reality is because we can't afford it. And the only way we can get to the level of where we can afford it is if we do these next few seasons. But you can't please everybody. And I think that's the only way we can do it, because we're not going to get bought out. We're going to have to sell and scour for big talents like Bellingham, like Rigg, like Wilson, and so forth. The people doing it, that's the way I see it being achieved, really.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, it might be slightly different for you with Transari because he's a nutcase. So
I think all we can hope for is accidentally be promoted and then immediately get relegated and hope not to get the lowest points total ever. But like, it's weird that is what it comes to nowadays. Like a team like Sheffield Wednesday, where in the 90s we were consistently in the top flight, and we were at one point, like we said, in previous pods we finished third, we've finished sixth, like in top half and things like this. But now, like, all we can hope for is that we miraculously get promoted somehow because of the amount of sides that have so much more money than we do, because we haven't been there a long time. We don't have the parachute payments. We don't have that much money behind us. We got a nutter as an owner. So, like, you think, like, we have to somehow miraculously, we have to be that team like Luton, really. Like, that sort of accidentally gets in there, gets promoted, doesn't make an arse of themselves, come back down, but then actually use the money wisely and establish ourselves as one of those yo-yo teams. That's what you can hope for as a fan, which is a bit sad, to be honest, isn't it? I mean, I think gone are the days like what I think the last time,
what we grew up with, basically.
Yeah, I think the last time where a team that was promoted actually sort of did something. I'm not talking about like Ipswich in the early 2000s when they finished like fourth. I'm talking about like Wolves, when they first promoted to the Premier League in 2018, they finished seventh, and they got into Europe. They were backed by a lot of money and all the George Mendes stuff, so they had a load of Portuguese. They had basically the Portuguese national team, but but like, do you ever see that happening ever again now? Do you ever see a team from the Championship, maybe not, they're not backed by money, going into the Premier League, just having a barnstorming season and finishing in the top 7?
No. I think the only team that could potentially do that are financially crippled and probably is one of the richest teams in the Championship, and it's Stoke. Yeah. Because of how badly they've been mismanaged. They can't spend the money, but they've got the money, but they can't, and the squad they've got's just awful. They're really in big trouble. Stoke
are one of those teams that, in our predictions, if anyone's seen our predictions, we always put Stoke towards the top of the table because they should be. But they're just shit.
They've been really poor.
You worry but then the Premier League has brought on a lot of this sort of that. It happened to us as well, like in the sense that we put all the eggs in getting into the Premier League basket, lost in the playoff final to Hull. Then we lost in the playoff semi-final the season after. And then because we were spending so much money on wages at that point, and these players, then our team got picked apart essentially, and then we just dropped like a fucking stone. We found ourselves in League One with points deductions and potentially going out of business. Like, if you don't do it, if you put all your eggs in getting the promoted basket and don't do it, you can really fucking suffer. Like, that's why some of the teams, like, doing it gradually makes a little bit more sense. But then it's, with football nowadays, you want instant gratification, don't we?
And that's it. There's no guarantees, is there? There's no guarantees, and there's no. I suppose there is literally right wrong there where you spend beyond your means and somehow manage to get there. I don't feel like that's fair. But if the club takes a risk, it's like, and does it? Nobody says anything. It's just like, oh, it's ambition. They've got ambition, but then when it goes to shit, it's like, well,
shouldn't have done that.
Mismanaged, isn't it?
Yeah. I know. That's the thing. Like, next season, you think if we touch on that, then so we're saying the 3 that go up. Do we think out of those 3 that, let's say it's,
I think 2 of them come
Leeds,
down.
Sheffield United, one other, even out of the one others. So let's just hypothetically say the top 6. So it'll be Burnley, you lot, Coventry or West Brom.
Coventry, sorry.
Yeah. So one of those, I think any of those 4 go up, they're probably going to come back down. Out of Leeds and Sheffield United, either of those stand a chance of staying up?
I would say yes. I would more, just because I've got like nostalgia of Leeds of like the early 2000s and think they are a Premier League club. Like they're like an institution in the English game. Like as much as we have like rivalry against them and stuff, and obviously use as a Yorkshire team as well. It's like you can't deny Leeds are a massive club. Like they are huge. They shouldn't be in the Championship, but then nobody's got the right to be a Premier League team. Like
No.
so, I would probably say Leeds, but the only seed of doubt is it's like it's what's the word? It's contradictory of us to say because the reason I would say Leeds wouldn't stay up. I'm saying Leeds, but contradictory because the same reason I say Sheffield wouldn't go up is because Chris Wilder's been in the Premier League, doesn't seem to really do it, kind of gets aggro and he'll get sacked. It's the same thing that'll happen to Fark. We both made this point before previously. Like basically, Fark is like well, no, he's not overachieving. He's basically he's managing himself into the sack because he's been in the Prem with Norwich and he's not done it. Like I don't think he's cut out for the Premier League, which seems harsh, and I feel like he should get a crack at it. But like, I can't say he's going to stop because the reason I'd say Sheffield wouldn't stay up is the same exact reason that you could apply to Leeds. It's just I don't think Chris Wilder's good enough for the Prem, and Nigel Farker's not either. Because if you go off previous, and it's funny because like you look at them two managers, and Chris Wilder's obviously come back to Sheffield after obviously Higginbottom couldn't do it with them and been sacked. I think he's the only manager who's come back to a club whereby he's actually got success again because they are going to go up. I think they're the top two.
Yeah.
Fair play. At the same time, I just think the goal to Prem and his style of football and his attitude, I think they will come straight back down.
Do you think?
In fairness, though, I would like them both to stay up because I've got nothing against the clubs. I mean, personally, it might make the Championship a little bit easier the following season, but I haven't got anything personally against them, and I think it's nice to see Sheffield in the Prem. It's nice to see Leeds in the Prem. I'd rather see that than fucking
Wolves.
Man United. Wolves. Yeah, fuck them. Get all of them out. Everton, fuck them. I don't mind Everton really, but
yeah, I don't mind Everton. And I would love to see Sheffield United relegated, but yeah, that's me. But
well, they've got to go up to come down, though.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, it'll be nice to see them go relegated to League One, but like you know.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, with Leeds and that, like, I think you're right there. Like, do you think there could be a case here where Leeds sack Daniel Farke for winning the Championship?
Potentially.
They get promoted and they know he can't do it in the Premier League and they just sack him off for someone else. Like before the season starts so they can build a team in the Premier League. Like that isn't out of realms of possibility nowadays, is it?
No, but that's what I was just about to say. If it doesn't happen to him, I don't think it'll be long before we see that happen where managers promote the team, get sacked, and then hire somebody else. I think it'll be a PR nightmare, obviously. But I do.
On that as well, could they build into someone's contract saying like you're here to get us promoted? When we're promoted, you're released. like they know it's coming. Like they get promoted with the team and they're like, cool, I'll get released. They'll go to another Championship team, get them promoted. And they're probably like thinking at that point, they're probably thinking like, at least can I have a crack at the Premier League? But you become a specialist in getting teams promoted.
The lower tier Sam Allardyce, where rather than keeping teams up, you just get teams promoted constantly.
Exactly. Yeah.
You come back there and you're like, to be fair, like I mean, I think it'd be very unlikely that you see a team give a contract to a manager to say like, oh, by the way, when you get the promoted, you get the sack.
He knows it's signed. You've signed into your contract if we get promoted, we're going to look for someone else to keep us in the Premier League. But we know you're good at a Championship level, a very good Championship manager.
They'll add a clause in that if they do get relegated, they can hire him straight back.
Yeah.
Mate, do you know what it is? Like, it wouldn't surprise us. I do think we're going to get to the point where you get a manager who goes just like players, like this. Like I mentioned earlier, Jack Clark. I'm not. I mean, he's still young. He's what, like 24, 25, something like that. Maybe even younger. I might have just like aged him a couple of years. But like Jack Clark is a player who's tried it when he was really young with Spurs. Didn't really get a whiff. Then he did it with Leeds. Didn't really get a whiff for didn't really set anything like he came to Sunderland, dropped down to league, came in at League One, found himself, played really well in 2 seasons in the Championship with Sunderland, was our standout player of the season, whatever, top goal scorer I think he was as well. He's moved to the Premier League, but which was the wrong move for him. He just definitely pushed him for that. And I also think Sunderland wanted the money for him, and I think we were surprised that we didn't get a lot of bids for him. And anyway, he is clearly a really, really good Championship player, but hasn't been able to cut it in the Premier League. There's so many players in like Dwight Gale is another example. Really good, prolific goal scorer in the Championship. Shit,
yeah, it is mad, isn't it?
The number of players you could pick. Maybe we'll get to the point where that's what it's like with managers.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. And on that note, I think we're at 35 minutes. But I was going to say, so we said how the teams potentially that get promoted will fare in the Premier League. What about the teams coming down and then the ones coming up from League One? Do you think that's going to make the Championship much harder next year, considering how much money Birmingham is spending? They're probably going to have a much better squad than they did when they're clearly running away with League One. So they're coming up. And then potentially Wrexham as well. And then you've got
Wickham.
I mean, Wickham, a shithousery team. But then you've got other ones in there like Charlton, historically a big side. Stockport, historically a big side. If you're from the 90s, they're historically a big side. They were in that level in the 90s. No one knows who they are, but yeah, they were. And then you've got Huddersfield, Bolton as well on the periphery, and Reading. So you got some decently big sides in there that could potentially come up. Birmingham and Wrexham are the big two, though. If those two come up, I think you've got two that probably aren't going to go back down. So it's going to make it even more difficult. Because I think there is clear dross in the Championship at the moment. I know there's not, like, some seasons it's competitive from, you've got clear top of the table, and then you've got clear, the middle is quite competitive, and then you've got some clear dross at the bottom. Whereas next season, potentially with the 3 coming down, who are going to be quite competitive, and then the potentially 2 or 3 coming up that are going to be quite competitive. Is it going to be am I getting worried that this season is just a flash in the pan, and next year we're going to be in a relegation battle again?
I'll try and answer it quickly because I know we're at the.
And then another one is just while you answer that one. Is the time now to get promoted rather than next season? Do you think it'll be more difficult for you to get promoted next season than it is now?
I'll answer that one first. Yes, absolutely. I think now is the time to get promoted if you can, because I don't think there'll be another chance. Because it is only going to get more competitive. So I would say yes to that. I think for the first part of your question around how the teams will fare coming down from the Premier up from League One, I'll look at League One first, and I think Birmingham absolutely will stay up, just because they've got the money and they'll hire as much money as it. Could they
do an Ipswich?
They can. Hard to say. It's hard to say. I wouldn't be surprised what I would say right now, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but if they didn't, it's kind of like, welcome back to the Championship. I think Wrexham, they're close. I don't think they'll do it this season. I don't rate Parkinson, so there's probably that from his time at Sunderland. However, if they did come up, another team with a lot of money, like they've got a lot of good they've got really good League One players, but maybe not so good Championship players at the moment, so it would be another squad thing that I'd need to address, because they've got a lot of they've
had a League One side since the National League, to be honest. So.
like Ollie Palmer. I think they've got about 6 strikers. Ollie Palmer, Fletcher, Marriott, Mullen and another in there potentially. Anyway, moving on from them, I think they'll spend the money to stay up. They'll make sure that they stay up. And then the third team, maybe you're looking at potentially Charlton, potentially Huddersfield, Wickham, who are currently in the automatic spots 3 points clear. I think Wickham are the only team I would question, and it's not because of their manager, which is Sunderland's ex-assistant manager, Mike Dodds. I just think out of the teams that are in the top 7, they're probably the one with the least amount of resources, so it'd be hard for them to stay up in the Championship given the spending power.
Wickham are a bit like a Rotherham or a Peterborough of old, aren't they? So they come up, they sort of compete, but they inevitably get relegated. Yeah.
A few points off Sunderland, then go back down.
Yeah. Piss everyone off.
But yeah, basically. So I would say there's 2 teams that'll definitely stay up, but then outside of that, Huddersfield and Bolton, I think they might kind of find it difficult. They could stay up. I'd say Birmingham definitely, because they've just got the money to do so. Money isn't everything, but I think on paper, looking at it now, you would expect them to. In terms of the teams coming down from the Prem, how would they fare? It's so difficult to say because I think there's so much transition. I think Ipswich could potentially go back up if they retain their squad, even if they lose Liam Delap, because they've got so much talent for Championship. So I would probably back them to be in the automatics. Southampton and Leicester, it's so difficult to say because financially Leicester are in ruins. And although they'll get parachute payments again, they don't, do they? They don't apply now, do they? Or
I can't remember if they do.
Well, Leicester have to sell their squad. They don't have that much to sell, if you like, because the wage bill, Ruud van Nistelrooy will probably leave or get sacked, because I think he's on the verge of the sack now, to be fair. Same with Southampton. They've got a lot of transition in the squad that they'll have to do. There's probably some players to lose, like Kyle Peters scoring a free somewhere. He's a big player for them. Smallbone might get picked up. They've already sold quite a few players in January, and you don't know who their manager's going to be. It could be Danny Rowell. It could be God knows who. So I don't know. I think given the stature of the clubs and the history of teams coming down, you'd expect them to be in the playoffs. But I'll be surprised if they should see like they did a lot of this season, like the. But Ipswich are the one I'd probably say that would bounce back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And then you could say out of the rest of the league, it could be anyone. Apart from, arguably, I mean, with the clubs that are going down out of the Championship, so leaving, Plymouth probably, Luton look likely, I think. Stoke? I mean, Derby have sort of picked it up a little bit, haven't they, of late?
If to end then, who would you like to see go down? For me, it would be Luton, Stoke, and Cardiff.
I'd love to see Cardiff go down because they just piss me off every season. Since that goal that was given, they had it was against Sheffield Wednesday. It was a free kick. Their player stood in front of our goalkeeper, like in the way, like this, and he just scored from this free kick. And they said, "No, that ain't offside." Like it's like, what? Oh, I've just lost a laptop, but
he's just like, oh dear, technical difficulties. Never mind.
Work laptop, it'll be fine. But
and you work up at that point. But mate, you're right. I think I would like to see Cardiff go. I'd like to see Stoke go and Luton go. I think we're probably agreed on that. And on that note,
indeed.
The next time we record an episode, I'm not trapped in this hotel.
Yeah, you might have escaped. Yeah.
We'll see. But thank you very much for listening and watching, everybody.
Yeah,
it's
thanks
good to be
for listening.
Back. And Matt, always a pleasure, mate.
Indeed, mate. Ta-ra, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.